Ultras, Sur, the dark side of Real Madrid's Ultras. Football has always been more than just a game. It is passion, identity, and for many, a way of life. Nowhere is this more visible than in the stands, where Ultras groups give color, energy, and voice to their teams. Yet, this passion has a darker side. Among the most infamous groups in world football stands Ultras Sur, the notorious far-right Ultras of Real Madrid. Founded in 1980, Ultras Sur rose to become one of the most feared and controversial groups in Spain and Europe. Their story is not just about chants and banners, but about politics, violence, and the uneasy intersection between football and ideology. To understand Ultras Sur, one must return to Spain in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The country was in transition after the death of dictator Francisco Franco in 1975. Democracy was returning, but Spanish society was still deeply polarized. On the football terraces, these divisions found expression in the birth of ultra groups, inspired by Italian and British hooligan culture. It was in this climate that Ultras Sur was founded, occupying the south stand of the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. Their name, Sur, simply referred to their location in the stadium, but it quickly came to represent far more. From the beginning, Ultras Sur had a clear ideological identity. Unlike other Real Madrid fans who came to watch the game, this was a militant group. Many members openly embraced far-right ideology, waving Francoist flags, using neo-Nazi symbolism, and adopting an aggressive skinhead aesthetic. In their early years, Ultras Sur's appearance was almost indistinguishable from far-right street gangs of Europe. Shaved heads, bomber jackets, combat boots, and a readiness to fight. Football gave them a stage, and the Bernabéu gave them visibility. For over 3 decades, Ultras Sur shaped the atmosphere at Real Madrid games. They were the loudest, the most organized, and often the most intimidating. With huge banners, powerful chants, and a fearsome presence, they created a wall of noise behind the goal. For many ordinary fans, they added excitement to the stadium experience. But beneath the surface, their ideology and violent behavior drew concern. The 1980s and 1990s were marked by repeated clashes with rival ultras. One of their bitterest rivalries was with Atletico Madrid's Frente Atlético, another far-right ultras group. Meetings between Real Madrid and Atletico were not just football matches, they were battlegrounds. Beyond the derby, Ultras Sur clashed with Barcelona's Boixos Noes, Espanyol's Brigadas Blanquiazules, and most violently with Rayo Vallecano's Bucaneros, a left-wing anti-fascist ultras group. These encounters often spilled out into the streets of Madrid, leaving trails of violence, arrests, and headlines. What made Ultras Sur distinct was their explicit far-right identity. While many ultras across Europe flirted with politics, Ultras Sur embraced it fully. Their chants included fascist slogans, their banners carried Nazi imagery, and they celebrated symbols of Franco's Spain. For them, Real Madrid was not only a football team, it was the embodiment of a conservative, nationalist Spain. They positioned themselves as defenders of Spanish unity against separatism and the left-wing forces of Spanish football. Over time, the group's appearance changed. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, the skinhead look began to give way to a more casual style, sportswear, designer labels, and street fashion. This shift mirrored the evolution of ultras culture across Europe, where appearances became more subtle to avoid police attention. Yet the core ideology of Ultras Sur remained the same. Their relationship with Real Madrid's leadership was complex. For decades, the club tolerated their presence. Ultras Sur created atmosphere, and in a stadium often criticized for being quiet, they were the beating heart of fan energy. But this uneasy coexistence could not last forever. By the early 2010s, Real Madrid's image as a global brand clashed with the ugly reality of Ultras Sur's presence. The breaking point came in December 2013. Real Madrid president Florentino Perez, keen on modernizing the club and distancing it from extremism, announced a complete reorganization of the South Stand. Through the club's website, he declared the creation of a new animation section and effectively expelled Ultras Sur from the Bernabéu. Ultras Sur had long believed there was an unwritten pact between them and the club. They would support unconditionally, and in return, the club would tolerate their ideology. That pact was shattered. This expulsion weakened Ultras Sur, but it did not kill them. For several years, splinter groups tried to maintain influence. Some members continued to appear outside the stadium, some tried to infiltrate the new fan section, and others carried on their activities in lower-profile ways. But the tide was turning. Spanish authorities were also increasing their pressure. In 2019, the State Commission Against Violence officially declared Ultra Sur a violent radical group. This designation meant that their symbols, banners, and organized presence were banned in stadiums. What remained of their power was dissolved by force. Yet the legacy of Ultra Sur is undeniable. For decades, they were one of the most notorious ultras groups in Europe. To supporters, they represented passion, loyalty, and fearlessness. To critics, they embodied hatred, extremism, and the toxic side of fandom. Ultra Sur also highlight a broader question in football. Where is the line between passionate support and dangerous extremism? On one hand, Ultras culture brings incredible energy, atmosphere, and dedication. On the other, it can become a vehicle for hate and violence. Real Madrid's decision to expel Ultra Sur was not just about cleaning up the image of the club. It was a recognition that modern football cannot coexist with openly extremist groups. Today, the South Stand of the Bernabeu is filled with a new generation of fans, organized by the club in a controlled animation section. The chants are still loud, the flags still wave, and the noise still rises, but the overt political extremism is gone. For some traditionalists, this represents the sterilization of football culture. For others, it is a necessary step to make stadiums safe and welcoming for everyone. Ultra Sur's story is not unique. Across Europe, far-right ultras have faced similar crackdowns. Their decline also reflects how football itself has changed. In the 1980s, clubs relied on ultras for atmosphere. In the 21st century, global branding, commercial revenues, and family-friendly stadiums have transformed the game. Ultra Sur belonged to a different era, and their downfall was inevitable in the modern football landscape. To many outsiders, they represent the raw, unfiltered passion of football, stripped of commercialism. To others, they are a warning of how easily passion can turn into extremism. The chants, the banners, the clashes. These are now part of Real Madrid's history, whether the club wants to acknowledge it or not. The story of Ultra Sur is ultimately a story of contradictions. A group that claimed to love their club above all else, but damaged its reputation. A movement that thrived on unity, but was often divided internally. A fan base that created unforgettable atmospheres, but also unforgettable violence. In the end, Ultra Sur are both a symbol of loyalty and a cautionary tale. As Spanish football moves forward, the memory of Ultra Sur lingers in the background. Real Madrid remains one of the biggest clubs in the world, and the Bernabeu continues to host magical nights of football. But behind the victories and the glory lies a history marked by one of the most controversial ultras groups in the game. For those who lived through the height of Ultra Sur, their chants and flags will never be forgotten. For the rest of the football world, their name will forever be associated with the darker side of fandom.